Alright, let's try again. Sometimes you press the wrong buttons. I know the light's not terribly good, but I can't use my downstairs. Well, that light's really annoying, isn't it? Let's put it here. Let's do it this way. Okay. Alright, let's see. So I'm recording this so we can kind of run through things. I've got some images from the game as we played it today, and what I thought I'd do is run through a little bit of commentary on the game, and hopefully I'll get to work out how I can edit some of this in from my live post, or add it to my live post, as the case may be. So I thought what I wanted to do is give you a feel for the game in terms of playability, level of enjoyment, a little bit about what happened, and and some areas where we felt as a group of four guys that maybe there was an opportunity for a few tweaks and changes, either house ruling for yourselves or maybe some rules edits that need to be potentially considered. Now, all of that is said in the context of this is our second campaign play. I would say the first campaign play, the Germans had the better time of it. We probably got a little bit further into the game in the first playthrough, but this time we got to a conclusion a bit sooner. I think we got to turn 17 at this point in this game, and probably 21, 22, maybe even 24 in the other game. So the idea would be that as the Germans, you do have a fairly substantial army in June of 42, and how you use it and how it's applied is once you kind of understand the command system, how headquarters activate, how keeping those divisions together when it's appropriate is a good thing, and when to split them up to allow you to conduct mobile assaults is another thing. And that would probably be the key difference between the two games, is that our loss ratio as the Germans went down significantly. We found very low losses for the Germans because we used a lot of mobile assaults, and we only took mobile assaults as needed against units that were 2-factor or 3-factor units, and very rarely against a 4-factor unit. But when we did use mobile assaults, even if we didn't get a kill result on that attack, you're still able to bounce the enemy back and continue to keep doing that to that enemy as it moves into new hexes and force a breach here. Hey, Kyle, I'll tell you in just a sec how long it was. That's a good point. So we did. So these mobile assaults were important. I think it was one of the key things that was different in our game was the gameplay was leveraging the mobile assault, leveraging the headquarters more effectively, and the headquarter points or support points. In terms of gameplay today, there was 4 of us. I got to my buddy's house at 8, and we did a kind of recon on the map and formations and who was managing what. And I think my first photograph was at 8:59 a.m. before I started turn 1, and I don't think we really got started until probably 9:30. Took an hour break at 12:30, and we finished play at 7, I think, having conducted 17 turns. And I would say on average the turns were probably running 45 minutes. Soviets did not have a lot of units on the map, so their turns were quick, and my turns took a long time because I had 6th Army and 2nd Army and 4th Panzer Army, and my buddy Pete had the rest of the Germans kind of north of Rostov and the Caucasus, and I don't know why we split it that way. But 6th Army was kind of a difficult formation to split up. So about 45 minutes a turn, with me taking probably the most time, and trying not to do do-overs and take-backs because, I play a lot solo, and though while these guys know me, I had to eat some things that perhaps I wouldn't have normally eaten, made a couple of mistakes here and there. So let me get into the game. The game, the flow of the game would go very much as you would expect with the Victory in the West system. There's a highly mobile initial couple of attacks, then you do some prepared assaults, bust some holes open. Next turn, the Soviets that turn then try and respond and fill gaps, and then from there you kind of rinse, wash, repeat until someone makes a mistake that's significant enough or finds an opportunity to, via mobile assaults, to break a hole open wide enough to allow a fairly substantial number of units to kind of gap through. And then start some pocketing. We did a fair amount of pocketing, probably killed north of 20, 30, maybe even 40 units outright in isolation via isolation rolls, and they don't come back to the map. But here's the game flow was interesting because you have these, there's a couple of things that are randomized, and the Hitler chits, or Hitler objective chits, can be either the Volga River, which is Stalingrad, the Caucasus, or Moscow. And our first was the Caucasus, and so we had until the end of the 10th turn to capture Rostov, and we kind of got on a roll with 6th Army and 2nd Army and 4th Panzer Army, and they kind of broke into this gap between the Don and the mountain range north of Rostov. It's kind of a valley there that runs directly down to the to Stalingrad, and we got on a little bit of a roll there and really started cranking pretty hard, and then realized, shit, we only got two turns to capture Rostov and finish that off, and we had been moving towards it, but we hadn't really engaged pretty seriously. We kept giving me the bulk or the lion's share of the armor activations, and that allowed me to do a fair bit of damage and also pocket a bunch of units and kind of get at it from there. But we're also, while we were doing that, one of the reasons why we weren't attacking the southern lines is that it's somewhat of a gamey mechanic, but it prevents the Soviets from activating if they're not attacked, or if the formation adjacent to them is attacked and they've got to roll for it. And there was some bad rolling going on, but then we also avoided one group and attacked on kind of both sides, and kept a large chunk of the enemy isolated, or not isolated, I should say, but inactive. And so yes, that's correct, Kyle. And so then what we saw is a rush up to the Don River, and there's a line of red stars that cross that. If you cross the Don with 6 multi-step units, you release. Sorry, if you cross the Don River with 1 or more multi-step units, you release some reserves, and then if you cross with 6 or more, you double the replacement rate. Well, there's your first gamey opportunity. We didn't cross the Don, other than one mistake I made in stepping into this red star hex, which released the reserves. And then I very carefully did not attack across the river or advance across the river or enter any of these other red starred hexes, but you can push regiments across. Now what you could conceivably do is take 10 divisions, break them down into breakdown units with 30 breakdown units, and send 30 regiments across the river and do all sorts of mayhem and damage. We agreed that was kind of lumpy and awkward and gamey, but I did send several regiments into the fray to start pushing on, I think it's Voronezh, or Voronezh is the correct word, or whatever. So did that. That also prevented the replacements from accumulating for the Soviets. Now, I think that's a problem, and it bore out to be a problem because the dead pool was very, very, very large, and the Soviets just did not have enough units on the map to compete. Nearly every other release item or replacement or unit coming off the map or whatever the case may be is, if this happens, or at date X, or at date X, release this or give this person that or double the rate or whatever the case may be. But one of the only things in the game that does not mandate a specific increase in replacement rate, either gradually or by just raw doubling, is this crossing the Don. And so it really kind of screwed up the Soviets pretty significantly, and they had a really hard time of it. And I think that's a fundamental problem with the game. The designer spent a lot of time talking about how he's worked to remove all these gamey aspects, yet there's this massively gamey aspect that drove the gameplay, which you'll see in a second, or I'll tell you in a second. So we had this thing, we had to capture Rostov. We only just got it on turn 10 or turn 9, whichever was the last turn. With the last die roll, we got this captured Rostov. And we were talking about it after the game. If we hadn't have captured that would have been the end of the game, and that would have been a strategic loss to the Germans. And we talked about it, and we probably would have continued on from there and just assumed that they did capture it and carry on with the campaign. Fast forward to turn 17. At turn 10, we had picked up this Moscow chip, but by this time I had 6 mechanized divisions in this valley between the Don and this mountain range. I forget the name of the mountain range now. I wonder if I've got it on here. I can't see it. So this mountain range, and it ended up that I had been stretching the defense behind the Don all the way along. It was very clustered up around Voronezh, I can't remember what it's called, so you have to bear with me. And stretching, and we were, joking about crossing the river, and I want to advance after combat. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to cross the river. And then this Moscow thing pops up, and I'm thinking, well, my opponent started leaving bridges open and enticing me to cross the river. So I did a kind of a big push down the valley, past all these open bridge hexes, but just 3 or 4 hexes past. And then I looked over at my buddy and I said, you know what, we should go for it. And so I took all of the armor activations I could. We reversed track, and then I crossed the river at 2 different points. Just blew everything across that I could across the river, but then still headed southeast towards Stalingrad to make it look like we were changing angle of attack, and kind of buffered out between the map edge and the Don, and tried to put a kind of a line of zones of control, and then up around Voronezh and down around the curve of the river. I just pushed everything across the river that I could, made some 1-to-1 attacks, made some 3-to-1 attacks, isolated some units, and locked up everything in zones of control as much as I could. Then took the next activation with the 2. We spent an extra supply point that we had kept, and then had a large move again of another 6 mechanized divisions with infantry buffering both flanks, and made a rush for the exit. And we got, in turn 17, we got the 6 mechanized units off the board. We had Voronezh, we had Rostov, and some other city, and we called it a win for the Germans, a strategic victory for the Germans. I'm just going to check this comment here. Hey Kevin, welcome. We're just talking about full blau and the gameplay. And so I guess my point about all that was that by having this rule, this wonky rule with these red stars along the Don River, that it really does cause you perhaps make some ahistorical gameplay that might not necessarily be best for everybody. I wish I could show you some of these pictures. I'm trying to see if I can see the name of this mountain range. this valley here real quick. I didn't want this to be a super long chat, but I'm happy to answer questions about the game if you're interested. It's Victory in the West system, and I felt that. So what did I think about the game overall after a second play? This is now my second time playing the campaign. I don't know how the game could ever last 60 turns. I'd be interested to see a scenario that starts at the perhaps at the height of the Soviet push back and their counteroffensive, and to see what it'd be like to be on the back foot a little bit. I didn't feel that the Soviets really had much of a chance, and they didn't feel like they had much of a chance either. They really just took a beating for 17 turns, and they had very little left on the board at the end of the game. Even with that once, because they only had 2, maybe 3 turns with the replacement rate doubled, and that just was not enough to get them forces on the board. And we had built this really nice channel for this armor to race down towards these exits. He did manage to block one exit once he realized what I was actually trying to do, and that cost us an extra half a turn or a turn, which is why it went to 17. But otherwise it would have finished significantly. It would have finished a turn earlier. And then on the other side, on the southern part of the map, Pete was in the red zone, where there's a border that's 20 hectares out from Stalingrad that allows fortifications to start kicking in. So we had, he had a full Panzer Corps ready to rock and roll with not a lot between it and Stalingrad, and he could have very well made a push for Stalingrad. And I think if we had have stayed the course and not gone all out to try and take, I just lost my place. Take the Moscow route, then I think we would have been well on our way to Stalingrad, and we probably could have taken Stalingrad, I think, if all went well. Anyway, that's kind of the deal. Yeah, well, it's not a blocking, Kyle, so much as a slowing down. There's a replacement ratio or rate, and that rate is determined by the progress of the war. So the activation of formations or armies, and then the rate at which you receive reinforcements. You also get reinforcements in the game, but it's just the replacements, those rebuilds. If you don't cross the river, you don't get them, so that the rate doesn't double. So it made a significant difference, I think. Right? And I think that rule, there should be some rule. There must be some point in time when the replacement rate just scaled up rapidly that they could work out, and just put that in as a turn X. It's assumed that you've crossed the Don, which would also drive some historical play then as well. So anyway, that's kind of that point there. Not sure what else I could share with you, but we had a lot of fun. I would certainly, it's a lot of work to set the game up. I don't like the counter art from the color management, the way the colors are organized. I don't like the font sizing. We had 4 guys, all with reasonable eyesight, struggling to read the names on the panzer formations, because you've got to keep these panzer formations together, and that was just no one proofed those, and whoever did proof them was proofing for format and correct structure, not for legibility. So a big miss there, but otherwise, the counter art's fine. The color coding could have been, I think I would have done something different with the color coding. I don't know how, but I would have done something different. I mentioned that before, my last time I talked about this game. And I think gameplay was fun. It's clean. It's a tight game. It plays really well. Now that we understand the system a little bit better and some of the modifications that have been made to the Victory in the West system, I think it plays very, very well. I think I'd be very keen to play some of the smaller scenarios. I don't know that I'd play an expansion at all. I could not imagine getting enough people together to play. This is not a solo-friendly game for a campaign game either. It's a very substantial number of counters on the board, and a very substantial reinforcement track, and a lot of little pieces to take care of and be thinking about to get full value out of the game, I think. But I certainly would imagine similar to GTS in that the gem in it is is some of the scenarios that are in the game. But good system, good game, and a lot of fun. And we've got a comment here. Worth getting, Kevin. I think if you could get it, yeah, I think it's worth getting. Am I going to buy it? Probably not. I don't own it at the moment. I've played it twice now. I'll play my buddy's copy. When I sat there clipping it, I've clipped half the game. I'm certainly not going to buy it and clip my own. It's one of two games I don't own that I enjoy quite a lot, and the other is Angola. So I think I would encourage people to buy it and try it, and have the expectation that you're playing it for the scenarios. Hey, Jimster, welcome. We're actually just kind of getting close towards the end here. We're just talking about full blau and game experience there. I had a second playthrough with a bunch of guys, and we had a lot of fun. So I would say overall, for me, it was a game that played well, has some gamey flaws to it that I think can be fixed. There might be some tweaking that needs to be done for the Soviets. Maybe the Soviets didn't play well, although I think my opponent played a very different game from the last time he played. He wasn't as aggressive counterattacking, and he had more units on the board to show for it, but we used mobile assaults more effectively and bounced his ass just all over the board, and we also were pretty effective with getting units isolated and attacking at pretty decent odds. So I guess that's kind of all I had to say. I didn't want to make this be a big hour-long thing, but I was trying to get it to be a live chat earlier on, but I couldn't get images up on the screen and the ability to do all those things. All right, talk to you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed the quick little chat, and I will catch up with you probably tomorrow sometime.